Welcome to the deep dive on the Inside Texas Football channel, powered by InsideTexas.com. We have Paul Wadlington over there.
Yeah, very
Myself, good. Ian Boyd, with my Twitter handle at Ian_A_Boyd. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel. It does not hurt you. All that happens is that our channel gets boosted in the algorithm and we do better. And it makes it easier for us to give you guys this content. So just do it. Don't ask questions. Just click the button. If they ask for your social security, hesitate a little bit, but then just push that through as well, and it'll be
Absolutely
fine. YouTube is completely trustworthy, and so are we. Today, Paul, we're talking about Arkansas. Arkansas is the next game. We're going to start with the Arkansas offense. This could be just the game right here, right?
Yeah.
Why
absolutely. Hey, slick hosting, first of all, Ian. I threw it out to you. Do you want to try to host and be the congenial collegial host? And you nailed it. You threatened the viewers. You forced them through sheer personality to subscribe and to like the video. I already like how this is going. So I love this. Yeah,
I think from the best, Paul.
That's right. This is a big part of the game. There could be a scenario, actually, even if we botch this part, where Texas can just outscore them, and we'll explain that later in the show in a little bit before we give this its due diligence. But yeah, this is a huge matchup in the game. The best part of this Arkansas team is their offense, but I say that with a big caveat, Ian, because this offense is feast or famine. They're up and down. And it's not just per game or opponent. It's per quarter, per possession, per play. Yeah, I think Connor and I were joking that Talon Green, if you make a highlight tape of him, you're like, whoa, this is an incredible player. And if you make a low light tape of him, set to yakety sacks, it's like, is this bozo a Division I quarterback? And the truth is somewhere in between. But, I kind of made this observation that we're used to bell curve distributions when you look at analytics for a football team, statistics and stuff. And so you end up with sort of something in the middle that tells you something about the team. Arkansas is a bimodal distribution. It's an A or an F on every play. And then it's a trough inside. Yeah, there's no fat big part of the bell curve in the middle. See, every play is either a disaster or a triumph for them, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. So this is a fun offense to talk about, and it's a fascinating offense to talk about because I think, Ian, this might be the first offense, if they're playing at their best, they could actually give us some problems and score some points. If they don't, if they're not at their best, we're not going to have any problems with them at all because we can cap their explosives, which is a big part of what they do. So what are your impressions of their personnel on offense? And what are some of the things we need to do to limit them?
Well, so I haven't studied them very extensively yet in terms of a lot of film. But I did notice just a couple weeks ago, maybe only a week ago, when I was looking at their schedule layout, that there is a direct relationship between how many yards Talon Green runs for and whether they win or lose.
Yeah.
And most of the L's across their schedule were games where instead of being like 12 carries for 95 yards, it would be 11 carries for 14 yards, which is, again, very boom or bust, feast or famine. And so I've just not been super worried about this game all year because it seems like it's just going to come down to whether or not Texas is good at containing Talon Green in the pistol option run game and then on third downs from the pocket. And Texas has not had – they've been very good at both of those things all year.
Agreed. And this Texas defense doesn't make a lot of mistakes. They just don't really do the own goal thing, which is really refreshing. And it's interesting to watch our defense, Ian, because sometimes when I rewatch the game and the emotions are sort of out of it, we're just very clinical on defense. And you don't see a ton of dominant plays or dominant playmaking at an individual level. You just see a defense playing well together, and they just don't make mistakes. Everybody does their job. It's Belichickian, right? And I think that's a kind of a neat aspect of this defense. It's a tribute to the players and the coaches in bringing it together. But Taylon Green, you mentioned that his rushing yardage can be a little bit indicative of his performance of the larger health of the Arkansas offensive ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
But there's a big reason for that. They don't protect Taylon Green very well. He gets sacked a lot. And Taylon Green doesn't help his offensive line. This guy will just roll and like literally be looking downfield and roll into a defensive end. I mean, I'm going to post some clips on Inside Texas later today in my preview of Arkansas's offense, and I'm going to post some of those on against A&M where he just literally rolls into a defensive end and sacks himself. So there's that. There's also containing him in the pocket, not allowing him to see a lane and take off. But in terms of praise, Taylon Green is a potentially devastating deep ball thrower, particularly off play action. And Bobby Petrino has done a great job. You know, he is famous as an offensive coordinator for always putting your safeties into conflict. And Arkansas has done that all year. And they've gotten a ton of big plays off of it, usually to Andrew Armstrong. They've got a tight end who's now healthy called Luke Haas, who's also a pretty good target for them. But they're able to hit these big chunk explosives down the field, and that opens up the running game with Taylon Green, with a group of backs that are big, strong, physical guys. Texas fans will know Jaquindon Jackson. But his backup, 250-pound guy, big, strong dude, and on a straight line, he can house a run.
250?
Yeah, 250. And I don't know where Arkansas finds these guys because they always have them. But Rocket Sanders, remember Peyton Hillis back in the day?
Yeah, I don't think I remember that he played for Arkansas. But who's this guy? Is it this Braylon Russell figure?
Yeah, he's 6'1", 250, and he's got good straight line speed. So
did he transfer from Army when the Army ditched the fullback?
That's right. Yeah, when they ditched the big, heavy fullback. So yeah, it's a very interesting group of skill players. The offensive line better running the ball than pass protecting. If you can get them into predictable throwing situations, not a good scenario for the Razorbacks. And that's when they start to turn it over. That's been a big problem for this offense. So they can hit explosives, they can run the ball, they can throw the ball, they turn it over like crazy. Taylon Green is a primary culprit. He's thrown 7 picks. I think he's among the worst in fumbles in FBS at the quarterback position. He fumbles a lot. So it's a really interesting dynamic in this offense. So my thought is we kind of go through and we talk about game plans for opposing offenses. And even as early as the Michigan game, we're thinking, hey, they like to run the ball. Maybe we overload the line of scrimmage and make them beat us over the top. No, we didn't really do that. And then you look at OU and you say, well, Hawkins, running quarterback, they can't throw, they don't have good receivers. Maybe we overload the line of scrimmage and just make OU beat us over the top, dare them to. Nah, we don't really do that. So, Ian, are we just going to run our base sort of defense and do our thing? Or are we going to, do something unsurprising? Or are we just going to continue to excel where we've excelled?
I'd probably be. I would think. I mean, this is kind of how PK did it at Washington as well, which is like, we're going to be really clean at executing. You may be able to throw and dink and dunk, or you may be able to run even for steady gains.
Yep.
We're going to make you do it the entire game for sustained drives. And then third down is a little different because Washington, they didn't even always have great third down defense, but because of like the thing now in college football is sometimes to have the hybrid inside linebacker who also doubles as one of your chief pass rushers.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just use the blitz to use them to attack weak spots. Texas has that in Anthony Hill, but then they can also put a dynamic edge rusher on either end on third down. So they can have 3 guys that would be the number 1 pass rusher at another school all on the field at the same time. And it's just, you don't have to be that good at anything else. If you can just, eventually we're going to force the third down. Then we're going to flood the field with all these pass rushers and good luck.
Yeah, another thing I'll add in terms of Arkansas they like to fire. They got pretty good guns on offense, but sometimes they like to fire them into their own feet. They're heavily penalized as well. So
Jeez.
their offense gets a lot of holding penalties. And what's interesting is when they're humming, man, you see them and they look impressive. They really do. I mean, a 6'6", 230-pound quarterback running, from the pistol option read to a 225-pound, 230-pound running back in Jaquindon Jackson. And then they've got a 6'4", 6'5" receiver in Andrew Armstrong running deep posts. And they're just playing off that sort of action over and over, either handing that ball off or taking a shot down the field. And it's pretty effective, but they have a tendency to turn it over. They tend to get penalties. And I guess this might potentially play into our hands, Ian, in that what has this defense repeatedly done all season?
Turn teams over.
Turn teams over and put a cap on explosives.
Yes.
So if we're arguing that Arkansas on offense is this high beta team, this high up and down team, well, the ups is where they score their points.
Yeah.
What if you take away the ups? Does that mean the downs go away too? Or do the downs still persist and they don't ever get the 60-yard, 40-yard, 30-yard chunk play that they're accustomed to?
You would bet on that.
I think that is the bet. And I think
it's the nature of college offense because it's 18 to 22-year-olds. And you're hoping that Texas is guilty of this at times as well. If you can create enough explosives, then it doesn't matter that your 18 to 22-year-olds make mistakes the rest of the time.
Yeah.
So if you take those away, there's no reason to believe that they would then start becoming steady. They'd probably just double down on the worst stuff.
I think that's accurate. And that kind of seems like if the defense goes out and really kicks butt, I think that's what it will look like. I think the Texas offense can help our cause quite a bit by disallowing Arkansas to have that run pass balance on offense. If we can get out to a lead and maybe force Petrino into more predictable passing situations, I think that bodes well for us because I do think Arkansas can run the ball on us. I really do. But the question is, to what effect?
And it's going to have to be inside because I just don't think they're going to let them get to the perimeter.
I don't think so. And we made that pretty clear. Vanderbilt's not a good comp because they just don't have the talent at the skill positions that Arkansas does. Diego Pavia, as much as I love the guy, he's not a physical comp for Taylon Green in space. Yeah. But if you remember from that game, Vandy early in that game tried to run a true option a couple of times early. Yeah. And Jelani McDonald came down the alley like a bat out of hell and knocked the crap out of the pitch guy as he got the ball. And it was, 2 negative plays. And Vanderbilt was like, okay, we're just running the ball inside. We can't run true option on these guys.
Let me speak to Mr. McDonald, not to him, but regarding him to our fans for just a minute.
Jelani, this is for you.
It's not for you, Jelani.
All right.
It could be. I don't know. He has emerged at the perfect time because Texas is playing all these run-heavy teams down the stretch. And he might be I think he's the best alley safety on the team.
Yeah.
Certainly with Derek Williams out. Derek Williams was pretty good at that too, but even though he didn't have quite the same thunder because he's smaller. Taff would be one of the best at it in the country, but he's not very big. So he's effective, but he's not like an enforcer. McDonald
is willing, but the body weighs 190.
The body weighs 190. Yeah. He still makes some big hits now and then, but McDonald is that guy. And all the teams they're playing down the stretch here, perfect. McDonald is perfect. He's going to have probably at least one more really big game before the season is over. But then they're going to get to the postseason, and then they're going to need to beat like an Ole Miss or a Tennessee or McDonald will probably help against Alabama, but a team that throws the ball.
You're going to go Makuba.
And then it's Makuba all the way. Makuba gives this team another gear in pass defense that I don't think has been properly appreciated this year.
I think that's accurate. And I think what you're going to see defensively is us take advantage of Taylon Green's lack of sophistication in the short and intermediate game. We're going to muddy it up some. And Jahdae Barron and Manny Muhammad, those are nice assets to have outside because they're guys with enough experience and enough instinct that they'll squat on a bad, ill-advised short throw that Arkansas previously viewed as a gimme, because teams are so terrified of Andrew Armstrong that they'll play off coverage and they'll sort of concede him taking 3 steps, turning around, catching the ball, and then running for 8, right?
Uh-huh.
Jahdae Barron will plant his foot and go attack that. And if Taylon Green just sort of hums it out there on muscle memory, expecting it to be a completion, it might be 60 yards the other way, and our fight's home. So I think that's an interesting aspect of the game.
You know what's amazing is that Jahdae Barron has, let's see here, trying to find him on the 31 tackles this year, 3 interceptions, 7 pass breakups. You watch long sections of games, no one even tries him at all. They usually try Muhammad, which doesn't even go very well. Muhammad has, where are you, Muhammad? 5 pass breakups. I thought it would be a lot more than that. But yeah, I wish they would play one really good passing team before the end of the year.
We're going to get our wishes.
Yeah.
We'll get our wish. It's going to happen one way or another, whether in the SEC title game or the playoff or something. But I'll tell you what, one of the greatest wishes for everyone is to be a homeowner. It's the fulfillment of the American dream. And for most of us, almost all of us, it's the biggest financial decision any of us will make in our lives. You need to not just go on the internet and Google up mortgage guy. You need to go with the best in the great state of Texas. By the way, he's licensed in other states, so he can help you too if you're not privileged enough to live in the great state of, as I live in Colorado. Call Gabe. Mortgages by Gabe Winslow, 832-557-1095. He's really good at what he does. Sharp guy, 20 years in the industry, law degree. Go read those Google reviews. It's basically 5-star after 5-star, like 180 reviews with 4 paragraphs written about the amazing problem solving that he did to make someone's dream come to life. He can do that for you. This is an important decision. Don't half-ass this, folks. Get the best in your corner. That's Gabe. 832-557-1095. All right. So
what excuse you, sir. I'm at the helm of this.
I forgot. You are the gunner helm of this podcast.
That's right. Don't you forget it.
I won't.
So now let's talk about the Arkansas defense against the Texas offense.
I should have made you do the ad, by the way. That would have been the best entertainment value for the viewer. Seeing you try to feign excitement and like being super activated and sell something.
See, I can be 100% in Gabe's corner. Gabe is great. The only problem is that I don't know all the details. So, and I think there are some even legal considerations in what we can and cannot say.
There are several, and you could easily get us.
That I could easily fall into. But everyone should check out Gabe. I'll say that much.
Good job, Ian.
I have one big suspicion about how this could go. But why don't you give us just an overview as the one of us who's actually more carefully studied the Arkansas defense?
Yeah, well, we talked about feast or famine on the Arkansas offense.
Yeah.
A lot of feast, but also quite a bit of famine. Imagine feast or famine, but it's mostly famine. You're mostly wandering in the desert with Moses. It doesn't get to the good parts of the book as often. So this is the issue with the Arkansas defense. Here's my sort of frank appraisal here. They've got 2 good NFL guys in their defensive line. Eric Gregory, nose tackle, impressive against the run. He's a pretty decent pass rusher. And then Landon Jackson on the edge, 6'7", 280-pound edge, and he moves well. He's not just a big lummox out there. He's a really talented guy. He's got a lot of length, as you'd imagine. Interesting thing about Mr. Jackson, he's been very impactful for them. 5 sacks, 20 pressures, 7 quarterback hits. But I watched him play. now for 2.5 years. And when he encounters the higher end tackles in the SEC, he's manageable. He doesn't dominate the game. And so I think that's going to be interesting. I almost wonder if Arkansas might play a 3-man defensive line against us and put a stack behind them, or just show a bunch of different crazy looks, because their defensive coordinator is known for that. He doesn't trust his secondary. They're not good. They don't play the pass well. And frankly, they're not great supporting the run either. So double whammy. But their defensive coordinators come up with some pretty creative game plans in big games. Tennessee, Auburn. The Arkansas defense was absolutely crucial to those 2 wins. However, it's hit or miss. And when he misses on his game plan, such as his decision to go heavy man single coverage outside against Ole Miss, it leads to 63 points on the board and Ole Miss throwing for 562 yards. And no, that is the correct number. I'm not combining 2 games there. So I do think that actually that kind of courage is the way that you upset a Texas, by doing something just completely unexpected and throwing a lot of stuff at us. But it's fundamentally unsound. And it's also a good way to get blown out. So what are your thoughts? What would you do if you had a poor secondary, you had some dudes up front, and you've got a home crowd in your corner? Obviously, the defense is going to be hyped up. Do you try to simulate pressures and attack our pass protection and get in Ewer's head and hits on him? Or do you play way off, concede nickels and dimes, and expect that we might self-destruct as we did against Vanderbilt for an entire half of football?
Neither.
Uh-oh.
I am playing flyover, and we are going to get into cover 3 or Tampa 2
and blitz
4 or 5 different ways. No, I'm not going to blitz.
Okay.
I'm going to sit in the flats with defensive backs over the top.
So you're gonna challenge our short game, and then you're gonna hope the pass rush gets there eventually.
Well, I have 3 over the top. I'm going to dare you to run.
Okay.
I'm going to sit on the swing passes. I'm going to sit on the perimeter screens, and not in a way that puts outside secondary players in run pass conflict. And I'm going to make you prove you can go down Main Street against a 3-man D-line with Gregory and Jackson, like you said. These swing passes are killing people. The perimeter screens, the tosses to the running backs. And then Sark has all these really awesome play designs now where he'll have like the deep shot and then a lead blocker for the check down.
Yeah.
That stuff is so great. So like when it gets to the check down and you have to rally to it, you also have to beat a block by Gunnar Helm or Jaden Blue or something.
Well, you'll notice that when defenses adjust to that, he runs the slot wheel route up the sideline.
Yeah.
Which destroys your coverage because you're now operating on different rules, and the guys don't trade off, and then the safety sometimes just disappears.
Yesterday morning, me and Connor were like trying to figure out and argue before and during the show how Florida was supposed to play that concept by rule. And neither of us were totally sure what the right answer was, because it's a very tricky deal. It's the kind of thing where if you prepare your guys and practice it a few times, it's fine.
Yeah.
If you're not expecting it and it just hits you, the chances are it's the fight song time.
So let's flesh this out. You're saying Arkansas used their bye week. Look, let's be honest. This is their Super Bowl. No Arkansas fan is going to be offended by that description, because they'll tell you. We had some Arkansas fans in the chat the other day, and they're like, "Yeah, this is our Super Bowl. We're 5-4. We want to beat Texas and then win our last 2 games. Then we go 8-4. And we go to a good bowl. That's great season for what we've been having.
That is a great season.
Yeah, and you stuck your thumb in the eye of a traditional rival, right?
Yeah.
Arkansas.
If I were an Arkansas fan, I would be like just dreaming.
That's cloud 9, right? So you think that they use that bye week to basically say, let's basically bring 3.
Yeah. I
Every
mean,
now and
like,
then we'll bring a linebacker, right?
you mix some blitz, you mix
You'll
in
get it in.
yeah.
But we're going to have everyone squat underneath. We're going to play press man underneath, but you're not going to carry those receivers up because we've got a 3 guys standing behind you who have your back.
Yes.
Let's see if Texas can hammer it right at Gregory and Jackson. Can your double teams drive them off the ball or screen them enough that your backs can be decisive and pop off 10, 14, 18-yard runs that will really hurt us and not 4-yarders, which are completely manageable.
Because a lot of Sark's solutions for this, when he had to beat it against Kansas State and Iowa State every year, was that Texas could run the ball.
Yes.
And they would get big. They would do whatever they had to do, and they would run the ball. And they would do it extremely well. And they had all sorts of different formations and concepts for it. They have not proven they can do that this year. Right? We don't even know if they have the 6 lineman package. And even if they do, is your game plan going to be to run the ball with Blue and Wisner 30 times? Can you trust Gibson we're going to go win on the road by giving Gibson the ball 15 to 20 times in crunch time?
Don't put it on the carpet.
Yeah, and don't screw up pass protection when it's, 2nd and 10 or whatever. I would not feel great about Texas' chances of winning this game running the football. I mean, maybe because the defense could make it academic. But if they really need to, if Texas needs to break 30 to win,
yeah,
and they have to do it by running, that feels extremely dicey, right?
Well, I'll say this. If they're undermanned in the box and we will actually maybe play with our receiver splits, maybe take a little page from the Bryles playbook and get them out wider so that there's no like secondary support. And I mean that in both senses of the word. I based on the Jaden Blue we saw last week, based on what I have seen from Jarrett Gibson in the past, I think we might be able to run gap schemes because you're not worried about penetration against counter Trey, against the GT counter. I think we might be able to run gap schemes and pop big runs on them. But it remains to be seen, doesn't it? Because I will say that Arkansas secondary, as I mentioned, they're struggling against the pass. They're giving up 8.6 yards per pass attempt, which is really bad. Texas gives up like what, 4.8 or something?
It's I
mean, it's like half.
Yeah.
But they don't support against the run very well, Ian. Like they don't come up well and tackle very well. I mean, they have a starting safety who misses 23% of his tackles. So that could be very interesting. And I wonder does this Arkansas defensive coordinator have the patience to endure a couple of rough drives with Texas running the ball to see if Sark gets a little stubborn and wants to throw it around, right? And plays into their hands.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think if Texas has a couple early drives running the ball that are successful, then you're in trouble as Arkansas, and you will have to switch it up. But they did do this against Tennessee.
Yes.
And it worked pretty well.
They were going to 3-2-6.
Yeah. That's in general. Here's a good rule of thumb for people. If your linebackers are not very good and you're struggling at linebacker, then you need to put more people into linebacker type positions and divide the assignments that are going to your linebacker core amongst more people.
Yeah, you could literally divide the field, right?
The same thing if your defensive line is getting whooped, you need to add people to the front. And if your secondary is bad, you need to add defensive backs to the back. If you're bad at more than one of the three, particularly bad at more than one of the three, then you can't do that. But if Arkansas is bad at stopping the pass and staying on top of routes and all that, then you play with more defensive backs, and then you say Texas has to beat us by running the ball.
So I think you have crafted what their game plan is. And here's why. And it fits. So Texas can run the ball successfully on them and still have this be a valid defense. And here's why. When they ran this 3-2-6 against Tennessee, Dylan Sampson, 22 carries, 140 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
But Nico Yamaleva, 16 of 28 for 156. They destroyed the Tennessee passing game. They destroyed any big play potential. And then Tennessee had 10 penalties. So they were putting themselves in bad down and distance to run the ball effectively, right, or correctly.
Yep.
And Arkansas dominated time of possession, 35-25. So that's how Arkansas won this game 19-14, even though Tennessee's lead back by any standard had a tremendous game. And he didn't do it on like a 90-yard run, and then everything else was a failure. He was gouging them. I watched the game.
He did have a couple big ones, I think, but
he did. He's Dylan Sampson. He's really good.
But he had like 157, he said, total or something. It was a lot.
He had 140, 22 for 140.
Yeah,
just that's stats I read you.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, I think this is what they're going to come out in. Now, this defensive coordinator has shown that he'll throw a bunch of stuff at you, right? So they might do this for 2 possessions, and then as we make our adjustment, he comes out and he's in a, freaking bear front on first down, just so it's 2nd and 12, right? Because we run the ball up the middle, expecting, that kind of situation. So I also do think, Ian, that there is, if you don't know how to play the 3 deep really in your bones, the flyover, and you don't know the responsibilities and assignments, you can still throw the ball against that. Even though it would seem formationally that you can't. It's actually more like assignment-based than people think. And I still think that Sark could do some things to have wide open receivers running down the field.
Well, especially like Iowa State's version, which is the purest and best. But Iowa State routinely, if you just listed their guys, not by position, but just with their size, you'd be like, oh, how are they still running a 3-4 defense out in Iowa? Because they're like middle safeties, usually like 220 pounds.
Yeah, and like 6'4".
Yeah, and their linebackers are big. And sometimes the other safety is big too. So Iowa State's thing is always they line up everybody off the ball, everybody spread out. And then you're like, well, we better run it. And then all those guys converge downhill, and they're all big,
strong guys.
They're all big, strong guys. Yeah. Arkansas's version has actually usually been a little more coverage oriented, but that doesn't mean they are wrong. Like, I think absolutely you can throw. It'd be funny also. This is exactly what they did to Sark in 2021.
Right.
And they just dominated Texas with their front 3, their front 5. And Sark had like no idea what to do. Hudson Card had no idea what to do, lost his job.
I think our offensive line has evolved past that. So I think a lot of it is going to be the running backs. They've got to create some value add in the run game. If you get a big gaping initial hole, don't just run it for 6. You got to make something happen. And I saw some stuff from Jaden Blue last week. Again, not to beat the dead horse, but it encouraged me. He looked like Jaden Blue.
He and Quinn are going to go down as such like tantalizing players, I think. Each in their own right.
The book is not yet written, Ian, but deep dive, this is fini. This is the final chapter.
Is it?
Ian,
because
any more final thoughts as you post and lead us out?
Yeah, if this is the ending, then I should be giving the closing monologue, I believe.
Well, if you were doing your job, you would have done that 3 minutes ago.
Oh, okay.
Oh, big swig of water. Here it comes.
No, there's not very much left. All right, I guess that concludes this week's episode. Make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you do not, Paul will trap you in one of those faces behind him. There's already other souls trapped inside of those screaming out. If you turn up your volume, you can hear them. And that's it. See you, folks. See you next time.